Abaqa Khan, also Abaga, or Abaqa Khan, was the second Mongol ruler of the Persian Ilkhanate. The son of Hulagu Khan and Yesuncin Khatun, he reigned from 1265 to 1282 and was succeeded by his brother Tekuder Khan. Much of Abaka's reign was consumed with civil wars in the Mongol Empire, such as those between the Ilkhanate and the northern Khanate of the Golden Horde. Abaka also engaged in unsuccessful attempts at military invasion of Syria, including the Second Battle of Homs. Life. Abaka was born in Mongolia in February 1234, son of Ilkhanate founder Hulagu Khan. His stepmother was Hulagu's Karaite princess bride, Khatun. A devout Nestorian Christian, was regarded as a spiritual leader of the Mongols, who were generally tolerant of many religions. Abaka himself was marginally Buddhist, though he was also very sympathetic to Christianity due to his mother's influence. A favored son of Hulagu, he was made governor of Turkestan. Hulagu died from illness in 1265. Before his death, he had been negotiating with the Byzantine Emperor Michael VIII Palaeologos to add a daughter of the Byzantine imperial family to Hulagu's number of wives. Michael VIII had selected his illegitimate daughter Maria Palaeologina, who was dispatched in 1265, escorted by the abbot of Pantocrata Monastery, Theodosius de Villehardouin. Historian Stephen Runciman relates how she was accompanied by the Patriarch Euthymius of Antioch. Since Hulagu died before she arrived, she was instead married to Hulagu's son, Abaka. He received her hand in marriage when he was installed as Ilkhan. When Hulagu's wife Khatun died in 1265 as well, the role of spiritual leader transferred to Maria, who was called Despina Khatun by the Mongols. It was Abaka who decided on the permanent location for the Ilkhanate capital, Tabriz, which was in the northwestern grasslands that the Mongols preferred. Abaka took power 4 months after the death of his father, and then spent the next several months redistributing fiefs and governorships. Some of the coins from Abaka's era display the Christian cross, and bear in Arabic the Christian inscription, "In the name of the Father, the Son and the Holy Spirit, only one God." Military campaigns. Golden Horde. Since Hulagu's reign, the Mongols of the Ilkhanate had been at war with the Mongols of the Golden Horde. This continued into Abaka's reign, and the Golden Horde invaded the Ilkhanate in the spring after his accession. Part of this was due to an alliance between the Golden Horde and the Egyptian Mamluks, in that the Golden Horde was attempting to distract Abaka on one front, to keep him from invading Mamluk-held Syria on another. The hostilities continued until the death of the Golden Horde's Khan Burqa in 1267. The great Khan Kublai attempted to intervene, to stop civil war, and due to his influence, the Golden Horde's Khan, Monka Timur, did not launch a major invasion of Abaka's territory. However, Monka Timur still established an alliance with the Egyptian Mamluk Sultan Qutuz, promising that he would attack Abaka and share any conquered territories. However, at the same time, Monka Timur also sent envoys to congratulate Abaka when the Ilkhan defeated Barak. In 1270, he allowed Monka Timur to collect his revenues from workshops in Persia. Chagatai Dzogadi's grandson Kaidu, Batu's grandson Mengu Timur, and Barak of the Chagatai Khanate formed an alliance against Kublai Khan and Abaka in Talis. They appointed Kaidu a ruler of Central Asia. The Kaidu-Kublai War lasted for a few decades. In 1270, Barak Khan of the Chagataids tried to annex Iran, which started a new war against Abaka in the city of Herat. Though Abaka was able to launch a successful defense and also defeated Barak's relative Tekuder in Georgia. In the following year, he retaliated by sending an army against the Chagatai Khanate. They plundered Bukhara and surrounding areas. There were small conflicts between Abagha and Nuririnas under Chagatai Noyans until 1280. Invasions of Syria. Diplomatic relations with Christians. Abaka was one in a long line of Mongol rulers who attempted to secure Western cooperation against the Muslim Mamluks. He corresponded with Pope Clement IV through 1267 to 1268, and reportedly sent a Mongol ambassador in 1268. Trying to form a Franco-Mongol alliance between his forces, those of the West, and those of his father-in-law, Michael VIII. He received responses from Rome and from James I of Aragon, though it is unclear if this was what led to James's unsuccessful expedition to Acre in 1269. Abaka is recorded as having written to the Aragonese king, saying that he was going to send his brother, Ahai, to join it when it arrived in Cilicia. Abaka also sent embassies to Edward I of England, and in 1274 sent a Mongol delegation to Pope Gregory X at the Second Council of Lyons, where Abaka's secretary Rai called this reader report to the assembly, reminding them of Hulagu's friendliness towards Christians, and assuring him that Abaka planned to drive the Muslims from Syria. But neither this diplomatic mission, nor two further embassies to Europe in 1276 and 1277, brought any tangible results. Campaign. During the Ninth Crusade, Bohemond via Antioch, under the influence of his father-in-law Hatumai of Armenia, had voluntarily submitted to Mongol authority in 1260, while Abaka's father Hulagu was in power, making Antioch and Tripoli vassal states of the Ilkhanate. In 1268, the Mamluk leader Baybars captured Antioch, and Bohemond obtained a truce with Baybars in order to keep from losing Tripoli as well. In response to the fall of Antioch, Edward I of England arrived in Acre in 1271, trying to lead a new crusade. It was ultimately considered a military failure, but Edward was able to eventually secure a truce with the Mamluks before he had to return to England. When Edward arrived in Acre, he had sent an embassy to Abaka, led by Reginald Russell, Godefroy of Wars, and John of Parker, requesting military assistance from the Mongols. Abaka was occupied by other conflicts in Turkestan but answered positively to Edward's request, sending 10,000 Mongol horsemen under General Samagar from the occupation army in Seljuk Anatolia, to Syria. After talking over the matter, we have on our account resolved to send to your aid Samakar at the head of a mighty force. Thus, when you discuss among yourselves the other plans involving the aforementioned Samakar, be sure to make explicit arrangements as to the exact month and day on which he will engage the enemy. Letter from Abaka to Edward I. September 4, 1271. The Mongols, including some auxiliary Seljukid troops, ravaged the land from Aleppo southward. Though the force was relatively small, they triggered an exodus of Muslim populations as far south as Cairo. Edward, for his part, was never able to muster his own forces to coordinate actions with the Mongols or even achieve any military victories whatsoever, and Abaka's forces eventually withdrew. When Baybars mounted a counter-offensive from Egypt on November 12, the Mongols had already retreated beyond the Euphrates. Campaigns of 1280 to 1281. The Mamluk leader Baybars died in 1277. In 1280 to 1281, Abaka promoted new attacks against Syria. In September 1280, the Mongols occupied Bagras and Darbzak, and took Aleppo on October 20. The Mongols sent envoys to Acre to request military support for their campaign, but the Crusaders were still in a 10-year truce with the Mamluks. The vicar of the Patriarch declined Abaka's request, saying that the city was suffering from hunger, and that the king of Jerusalem was embroiled in another war. The king of Cyprus Hughes III and Bohemond VII also mobilized their armies, but could not intervene because the Mamluks had already positioned themselves between them and the Mongols. Abaka and Leo III urged the Franks to start a new crusade, but only the Hospitallers and Edward I responded favorably. The Hospitallers of Markab made combined raids into the Bukhaya, and won several engagements against the Sultan. raiding as far as the Krakdej Chevaliers in October 1280, and defeating the Mamluk army of the Krak in February 1281. The Mongols finally retreated, pledging to come back for the winter of 1281. They informed the Franks that they would bring 50,000 Mongol horsemen and 50,000 Mongol infantry, but the request apparently remained without a response. Campaign of autumn 1281. The Egyptian Muslims had respected a 10-year truce with the Crusaders which began in 1271. On May 3, 1281, the new Muslim Sultan Kaloran signed a new 10-year truce with the barons of Acre and a second 10-year truce with Bohemond VII of Tripoli. On July 16, 1281, the announced Mongol invasion started in September 1281. They were joined by the Armenians under Leo III, and by about 200 Hospitaliers knights of the fortress of Markab, who considered they were not bound by the truce with the Mamluks. On October 30, 1281, 50,000 Mongol troops, together with 30,000 Armenians, Georgians, Greeks, and the Hospitalier Knights of Markab fought against the Muslim leader Kaloran at the Second Battle of Homs. But the battle ended with no clear victor, only heavy losses on both sides. Death and succession. Abaka died at Hamadan on 1 April 1282, probably in a state of delirium tremens. This illness was probably caused by too much consumption of alcohol, a habit common to many Mongol leaders. However, in 1285, his Minister of Finance, Shams ad-Din Uvena, was accused of having him poisoned. After Abaka's death, his widow Maria fled back to Constantinople where her father, apparently wishing to spare his capital the fate that befell Baghdad, tried to marry her off again to another Mongol Khan. Maria could not accept the offer, became a nun, and founded the Church of Panagia Mushliottiso around 1285. Abaka was succeeded by his brother Tekuder, who despite his earlier conflicts with the Egyptian Mamluks, had converted to Islam. Tekuder reversed Abaka's pro-Christian policies and proposed an alliance with the Mamluk Sultan Kaloran, who resumed attacks on Frankish territory, capturing the northern fortress of Margit in 1285, Latakia in 1287, and Tripoli in 1289. In 1284, Abaka's son Arghun led a successful revolt, backed by Kublai. Arghun had his uncle Tekuder executed and took power himself, returning to the pro-Christian policies of Abaka. A younger son, Gaykarchu, assumed the throne in 1291.